So we're gonna do two difficult things today. One of them is German streusel dough. And I mean, Pidawi and I've been looking at these videos online for months since last year. Sometime like obsessing over the fact that they have this dough that's get paper thin and then roll into something else. So a lot of different cultures have it, but we stuck with the German dough recipe instead of any of the others. And traditionally they do apple streusel. But that we heard a little birdie tell him in his ears that people use Christophine instead of apple in apple pie. So we're gonna do two impossible things today. One is make German streusel dough, and two is make German streusel dough into apple streusel made with Christophine.
So Christophine streusel?
Apple Christophine streusel. It's supposed to taste like apple. We'll see.
You want to try to make it taste like apple?
I'm gonna try to make it taste as close to apple flavored pie as possible. So a note on flour. The flour that you get abroad is it comes in grades, it comes with different types of wheat, all of those things, and all of those things add to the finished product that you would get when you make some of these things. Like this recipe in particular called for a certain strength of flour, or a certain strength of bread flour, which is a flour high in gluten, because the gluten is necessary for us to stretch the dough as far as it needs to stretch. So I tried to use my little bit of food science I have in my head and say we're going to use some 00 that Badawi magically had. I do not own any of this. And some all-purpose. So I'm going to do 50-50 for the recipe. Hopefully it makes a difference. So, 00 flour is like very high gluten flour. So it should help us out. So I think I read so many people's vlogs about this and the experience making it, and I stuck with this one. First of all, not just for the recipe, but there's this really cool photo that won like 1 million awards of this girl stretching this dough with the back of her hands. And she's a German chef, and this is the recipe that her grandmother gave to her of how they used to do it traditionally. Now I have German family. None of them know how to do this. So I was kind of stuck on my own. So I had to just figure it out. They know plenty stuff though. My German family, they taught me a lot about baking, because some of the stuff that they do is next level. So what she did was she did the 1/3 cup of lukewarm water, and this is a tablespoon and half a teaspoon of vegetable oil, and she did half teaspoon of lemon juice. Now her notes on the lemon juice say that the lemon juice, or you could use vinegar or lime juice, anything that's acidic. It's just that the acidity of it in the dough helps the gluten relax so that you're able to stretch it further. I'm just gonna get a little, right, there we go. And we're gonna put half of this in. I'm not measuring the half, I'm just putting what I think half might be. My biggest fear for this recipe is not that I mess up the recipe or the Christophine part. That part I feel like I could wing and it'll be fairly good. It's just the stretch part without ripping it to shreds. Yeah, that part I'm concerned about. So the instructions say that you should mix this liquidy sort of part for a while because it helps with the gluten development. So this, she said it helps with the gluten development at this stage. So what we were taught this part is called, where you just mix the flour and water together and you just kind of let it combine and let all of the flour absorb that liquid. It's called autolyse. And autolyse is something they use. So autolyse could be active and non-active. Active being that you mix it very slowly, like on a slow mix on your mixer, or by hand very slowly and for a long time and let it develop, or you just kind of leave it to sit in the moisture for a long period of time to develop the gluten. So old technique, very, very sourdough technique actually. Now I'm actually kind of seeing the gluten. So gluten strands are like just proteins that stick together when they get wet. So they like attach to the other one, like going in a line. And the more you play with the dough, or the more you play with the flour that's hydrated, is the more gluten will stick together. And when you get like a big grid of it is when you can like stretch the dough really far and it doesn't rip, because the gluten strands are stuck together. So it's actually very fun to learn about. I don't know if anybody else thinks that food science is fun, but I do. So they said, go in with all your flour, mix with the spoon until you can't mix anymore, and then use your hands. And then from there you have to work the dough on the counter for at least 10 minutes. So you see the development, and then you're going to leave it to rest for 1 hour. So. And it's kind of hard to believe that this tiny amount of dough is going to stretch past 15 inches in length. You know that flour does react in a different way in different temperatures and humidity, and our weird humidity is sometimes just mess stuff up. And unfortunately, all the things that you could read is for like other climates, and our climate is kind of real mess up, real up things. Like, ooh. So like some of the amazing recipes that I had from working in France, I tried them here, and there's serious failure because of the humidity. So, and I mean, anybody who's make macarons, they know the struggle. All right. We're gonna do the Christophine filling. So I actually took the drive with my friends yesterday to Blanchy, up Arima side into Blanchy, and saw all of the fields of Christophine, and we had the discussion in the car that this tastes terrible, and I'm like, I'm going to change your minds. I was informed today by Badawi that apparently it's one man that owns all that madness. So we're gonna peel and cut these, ow, they have like a little spiky thing, ow.
Yeah, it's a little spikes on them.
Jesus Christ. So gonna peel and cut these up and do it like a cook fruit method. Now I know that is a little bit risky, on top of me taking the risk with this and the dough that I never worked with in my life. They use raw fruit because of the amount of liquid being released is minimal and not such a delicate dough. So I'm going to do the cook fruit method because I need to put the flavor into the Christophine. But I'm going to try to do it as dry as possible so that we don't have like seepage in the dough itself. So scare crack. Oh, and I have lemon zest, cardamom, cinnamon, ginger, vanilla, and some lemon juice, and some bay leaf, some tonka bean, and some nutmeg. So lots of spice because we're trying to make this as flavorful as possible because it tastes like nothing. So my finger's swollen, that's why I'm feeling weird.
Serious?
Yeah.
Like an allergic reaction?
I hope not. all the Christophine is cut up, and we chose to cut it smaller because we're trying to put some flavor into it. So the more surface area, the vegetable is a vegetable. No, is it a fruit? It's a fruit. It has a seed. It's a fruit. So the more surface area we have, the more flavor we will get to put into it. So cinnamon, lemon zest, ginger, cardamom, some lemon juice, some vanilla, pinch of salt. I'm just gonna give these a little crush and put them in there too. Now I don't want to add too much sugar. I'm gonna start with about, like, let's say 2 tablespoons worth of sugar. This is a teaspoon, guys. 3 teaspoons equal 1 tablespoon. I find that nutmeg is such a versatile spice. Like, it does this fun thing that people don't realize, which is kill odd tastes from other things. So, like, it goes so well with strange things like pork and pumpkin, and I don't know, it's just work. Kind of does look like apple. To other news, apparently we had to Google that Christophine sometimes gives people a slight allergic reaction with handling, not eating, because apparently you can still eat it. It's just that when it's raw and you're peeling it, the sap that it releases messes with your hand a little bit. So I'm going to check my hand out there. You see like a little tightness. It's kind of wrinkly, and they say it blisters after this point. So word to wise, when we're handling the Christophine, if you want to recreate any part of this recipe with the Christophine, put some gloves on in case you have the reaction that I have, because my right hand is completely normal because I was using the peeler in this hand, and the thumb that got in contact with the Christophine got it, and this entire hand has it. So, I mean, it's a little weird. Christophine is obviously a tougher fruit than apples are. Apples are pretty delicate. So it cooked for half hour to get down to this point, to them being all soft. And they're pretty much ready now. According to Badawi, they taste like stewed apples, which is the aim. So we're gonna set this aside, let it cool, and work on the actual difficult part that I read 25 pages of information. I downloaded a book. I read most of the book to try to learn how to do this dough. And if I can't do it, I don't know. I don't know, we'll see, right? Let's see. According to the girl that I was following, she rolls it out first and then uses her knuckles to stretch in the air. Her grandmother went from this to stretching in the air without rolling it out. I'm unaware of how that works, but we're gonna do it her way, right? Which is to roll it out as thin as we can and then pick it up. Well, we kind of looking like some here. I mean, I don't know if you could kind of see. It's real thin. Now, this is just supposed to allow gravity to help me here. You see my tear?
I see your tape.
Yeah, sadness. I find like I'm not thin in the middle enough. So she explained that there's like a knuckle motion, that your knuckles are supposed to be the ones that pull the dough apart. This is a lot harder than it looks. So I'm gonna go one more time with my hands, and then I'm gonna attempt to put it on the tablecloth and do it with my hands, like just holding it and pulling it because she said when it starts to tear too much, it's time to put it down. So I'm just gonna try one more time and we'll see, because I find like the middle is still a little bit thick. Oh, I railed to it, guys. Are you seeing this? Right, time to put it down. So according to research, there's 2 reasons for said tear. And according to what I know about pastry, there's 3. And one is that the gluten wasn't developed enough. Second is that the dough is too dry. And the third one is when I was rolling it, I kind of put a crease in it, like an idiot, and that's where my first tear came from. But it's time for me to put it on the thing and try to do it by hand now. So I'm gonna just leave it right like this size. Gonna move my guy out. So I only picked it back up because I feel like the middle, I can't stretch with it lying down. And I thought the middle would look great. But that little piece that I stretched there got as thin as it's supposed to get. Because it's basically see-through. I think I needed to put more moisture in it. Like the dough needed more moisture, because if this was more moist, it wouldn't have dried out so quick and it wouldn't have cracked so quick. So I feel like because of climate reasons, I may need to make my own recipe. And I forgot to slam it on the counter a few times. Unfortunately, that would have been actually real fun, but I forgot. And I'm going to bake it anyway, and we're gonna see how it comes out. But it is super thin. Like, this is thinner than pasta dough. Like when I roll pasta dough out, this is much thinner than that is. And I don't know if you could see the middle of it here, like it's basically translucent. I really want to try it again now because I feel like I know where I went wrong. And the ripping is because of how dry it was. So I say I'm gonna try it again. I'm gonna fold just the corners in, right? You could see all these places that I ripped this thing to shreds. What I want to do is I want to brush these ends with the butter. I'm gonna attempt to use the tablecloth to roll this the way that they said you should. So I'm just gonna grab both sides and just roll. This is actually kind of very cool. Make sure we're nice and tight there. Right. Oh, look how nice. Okay, and they're real right to be using a tablecloth for this because this is so delicate. Whew. Okay, all right, we didn't die. So I'm just gonna brush our little guy with some butter and put him to bake. Now I think the butter just helps it cook nicely and brown nicely. Reason for butter. And you want to put this with the seam side down, so the side that is closing it down. Okay, moment of truth, right? Just put this guy to bake. We'll be back in a second. To you, it's a second. To me, it's not a second. Okay. This was in the oven for about half hour, and it's out. It's clearly cooked, you know? And we're gonna just cool it for maybe 10-15 minutes and then cut into it and see how it looks and how far off from the original we got. Moment of truth. Let's hope I don't burn my mouth. Okay. You would not know that this is Christophine.
No, that's
if you blind taste tested me, honest to God, blind taste tested me and told me that you made a streusel, I would assume that this is a pear or an apple. I would never in my life think that this was Christophine. It doesn't look like it. It doesn't taste like it. It doesn't even behave like Christophine, because Christophine does this sort of overly crispy thing where it sort of like tastes like nothing. It's like that thing in Chinese food that you don't really eat. And it does not taste like that. So I will say we passed 100% on the Christophine test. Yeah, with that challenge, that half of the challenge, and I say we get like a 75% on the streusel dough, 50 maybe, because we didn't completely fail, we just didn't do it perfectly. So dump like a handful of raisins or a handful of craisins or a handful of blueberries or something in there to drop like some difference in texture and flavor in between. I feel like that would have been the push over the edge flavor-wise for this. It's like
a more tartness.
Yeah, some more lemon juice on the inside.
Yeah, or maybe some more zest too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I only use the zest from one lemon. Maybe I should have done two. Oh, you know what would have been nice too? If we did some sliced almonds on the inside, like a sprinkling of them before we rolled. And you would have had that texture difference in the middle as well. Would have been good. Would have been real nice. But yeah, well, I mean, notes for future. Let me try it again, because I don't know. I'm determined now to try this again.
We have to.
Mm-hmm.